everyone. I'm Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. How's it going? Going well here. Recording this, it's especially important here, but I always like to tell you when I'm recording things. I'm recording this Monday around dinner time. No trade news yet on the Steelers. That could happen at any point. Of course, I'll react to it if and when it does happen. There's been more speculation that Valdez-Scantling's going to be in the mix. I'm going to wait on that just until it gets firmed up and see what the wide receiver situation is. But let's dig into this game some more. We always, recap it a second time. And let's do snap counts as we always do right after the game. 62 total snaps on offense. Not a lot, but okay. Jones, Frazier, Faltanu, McCormick, Aaron Rodgers all played 62. All right. I mean, that's pretty much the going rate. We know Ciamalu missed time. Metcalf played 51 out of 62 snaps. And a little birdie told me, I just want you guys to, maybe you're a little down on Metcalf after this game. I think if you rewatch the game or, just look at this lens, I'm pretty sure that he was fighting a really bad illness through this game. Like, remember, Peppers and Holcomb were rolled out because of illness. I think Metcalf was basically just a decoy for this game. And kind of just out there. I mean, he was getting a lot of IV treatments and things like that on the sideline. So just, take it easy on him maybe. Ciamalu lasted 48 snaps. We'll see what his situation is. Darnell Washington, 41. I'm a big fan of him playing as much as possible. I really am. Warren, 35. Only 35 for Austin. More for that in a minute, because Roman Wilson was nipping on his heels at 29 snaps compared to 35 for Austin. I mentioned Washington played 41. Freiermuth played 29. Jonnu played 25. I think I'm fine with that distribution. Gainwell, 23. Skoranek, 22. Good for him. Spencer Anderson, 21. Some as the jumbo, some as the replacement. And Caleb Johnson, 5. Connor Hayward, 4. Keyshawn Williams, 2. Trey Sermon, who is active for this game, 1, and Jalen Ramsey, 1, who's out there in kneel-down situation, which is great. How about the defense? The defense in general was out there for 79 snaps, which is weird. I'm looking on Pro Football Focus here because Ramsey, Queen, and Porter all played 78. Was there one weird snap that I missed, or is this just a typo or something from them? Because I would think they'd be out there for every snap. Did they all miss one? I don't know. Who cares? But Duggar's one behind them. 77 snaps for Kyle Duggar just getting here. Congrats. I love this, and I hope this is here to stay because I'm really warming up to Peyton Wilson. 67 snaps for Wilson. I wouldn't mind if it's just Queen and Wilson as every down linebackers going forward. Something we'll definitely talk about throughout the week. Slay was in the doghouse, don't get me wrong. But 62 snaps, and that finger injury was a bad one. I mean, I give him credit. I mean, he was not interested in tackling, and he was one of the guys who was getting called out for effort before this game, rightfully so. But that was a bad finger injury, and he didn't miss much time. Went back to the locker room, still came back on the field shortly after. So good for him. I think that's a good trend for the elder statesman on the team. Watt was 60. Eccles with 57. Played pretty well. Cam with 50. I thought he played great. 48 for Benton. 48 for Highsmith. 40 for Herbig. I'm pretty cool with that situation. Watt 60. Highsmith 48, Herbig 40. That's more like it to me than those two, way more than Herbig. I had a problem with that, as you guys know. Harmon 33, Harrison 23. More about that later too, but we did talk about some of the 4-3 stuff that he was doing. They had a specific plan in place for Harrison. He did well. Sawyer 21, Y.A. Black 17, Pierre 17. Not exactly what you wanted, but I thought he played well. It was a short amount of stretch, only 17 snaps, but I thought he did really well. Autumn Wenzo, 9. And then 1 each for Bruner, Keyshawn Williams. What was he out there for? Trey Sermon, Connor Hayward, Juan Thornhill, and Ben Skoranek. I'm missing something on one of these snaps because all these guys played one weird snap. And the top guys didn't. So I'm not sure exactly how PFF has that figured out. I'm not going to spend much time on it because one snap of defense that obviously meant nothing. I'm going to sleep at night just fine with that. All right, we'll be back in a moment.
Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action.
Okay, as we often do, I've got a lot more in-depth notes a day removed. I mentioned the Austin Wilson thing. In 2 wide receiver sets, and it wasn't because Metcalf was coming off. To his credit, he gutted through whatever he was going through. When there was only 2 receivers out there, Austin only played 1/3 of those snaps. He played 35 snaps compared to 29 by Wilson, 22 by Skoranek. But I think what's most important here was with 2 receiver sets, he was only out there 1/3 of the time. Makes me wonder, are they looking for a number 2 receiver? Frankly, was what's screaming to me is they're not happy with the number 2 receiver situation. I don't know, but I think that could be in play. I hope Valdez-Scantling isn't the only answer if that's the way they see it. But some advanced numbers I thought were really telling, and then some more observations as we often do. Plays per drive. A lot of these numbers, and frankly, watching the game a second time around, aren't as favorable to the Steelers, particularly on offense. This was not a very good offensive day for the Steelers. But anyways, plays per drive, 7.1 for the Colts, only 5.4 for the Steelers. Yards per drive, 31.1 for Indy, only 17.4 for the Steelers. Now, I understand some of the time they're getting the ball at short fields, but still, their per drive stuff was really bad in this game. But their points per drive was better, 1.9 compared to 1.7, because they often got the ball closer to the end zone. Okay. They did run 18 red zone plays. That's way up from last week. Indy only ran 10. Rushing yards before contact, neither was very good. 0.3 for both teams. Pretty low. After contact, Indy did pretty well. Jonathan Taylor, he's tough to tackle, 2.6. And I thought Warren played better than this number reflects, but only 1.5 rushing yards after contact. There were 0 explosive runs in this game by either team. The Steelers ended up with 2 tackles for loss in the run game. Indy only had 1. I found this interesting because Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers couldn't be more different as runners, but scramble yards from quarterbacks, they each had 1. Batted passes, Steelers had 2, which is I've come to believe is almost like they're given right every game. The Colts had 1. The Steelers had 6 PBUs in this game, pass breakups. That shows. I mean, their corners weren't great, but they got their hands on the ball a lot, where the Colts only had 1. Average depth of target. Colts pushed the ball 9 yards downfield on average. That's about normal. 3.3 for the Steelers. And I saw some other outlets saying it was even 2.7, which would be, frankly, one of the lowest in the last 20 or 30 years. And we'll get to some of that stuff too. But the Steelers did produce a lot of yards after catch, yet again, 151 yards compared to 99 for the Colts. Yards after the catch per completion, 6 for the Steelers. That's a lot. 3.2 for the Colts. Explosive passes. This is what's killing the Steelers in some ways. I'll talk about it later in the week, but their explosive pass differential is horrible. And it was really bad in this game too. The Colts had 10 of them. Steelers only had 2. Now the Steelers created 19 pressures from their defense, and the Colts only had 9. QB hits, Steelers had 4. These are in addition to sacks, obviously. The Colts had none. Really good. Unblocked pressures, that's a big thing to me that reflects on your defensive coordinator. Austin and company dialed up 4 plays where they got an unblocked pressure compared to just 2 from the Colts. I mentioned the Harrison stuff. We saw quite a bit of old school 4-3 stack. Rarely anymore in the league do you see 3 linebackers, off the ball linebackers. I'm not talking about like Herbig and Highsmith and Watt. And we did see some packages with the 3 of them on the field. But we saw quite a bit of Harrison, Queen, and Wilson all on the field together. And my hunch is with this, I'm going to do some more digging, is I think they basically just said, Harrison, you be the downhill between the tackle, Jonathan Taylor run stuffer in that situation, because we want to play more too high behind you to take away, instead of single high safety. So we're going to kind of play with a little bit lighter box, but we're going to have one of our thumper linebackers that doesn't run that well just be a take-on dude and kind of just play as a run-only player. Of course, that's not all he does, but I thought that was an interesting wrinkle and one that the Colts could not have expected. I found this interesting. The numbers bear it out, but certainly watching the game bears it out too. The Colts were really bad on early downs, but they were fantastic on late downs. So they were in the 83rd percentile Colts offense and late downs, but in the 3rd percentile overall in early downs. So Steelers did, you take that, Steelers D is in obviously the flip of that, but the Steelers did a really good job on early downs. Late downs weren't as great. Some of you guys that don't pay super close attention to the inactives and whatnot might not have realized that 2 running backs, Lou Nichols and Trey Sermon, were both active in this game. So they had 5 running backs active, but I think that was almost entirely for special teams purposes. They're still trying to work some things out with Killebrew being out. I'm not exactly sure how their special team workload's getting, divvied up. But that was an interesting wrinkle. He had 5 running backs active, including Caleb Johnson, who he played 5 offensive snaps. That's the first playing time at all he's gotten with the offense since week 6. Didn't do much with it, but it was only 5 snaps. I'm not going to take that as, boy, he's out of the doghouse. We'll see. I don't know what to think of that whole situation either. Some more notes here. I thought it was a very strong day by the Colts wide receivers. Pittman, Pierce, Downs. Not that Warren was bad, but I'm just focusing on their wide receivers. But it was not Daniel Jones' best day to get him the football. It wasn't bad. I mean, I think some of his stuff that you're being criticized today is more around his pocket awareness, things of that nature. He delivered the football where it needed to be. I didn't think he was a terrible player or anything, or turned into the pumpkin that everyone thinks he's going to. But I thought it was a really good day by a good group of receivers. I mentioned before, I am all in favor of more Darnell Washington, the better. I think, this is more of an instance where you just keep getting him out there no matter what. Success rate. Their rushing success rate, the Steelers, was only 33%. That's well below the line where you want it to be. But they also didn't stick with it a ton. I think the running game as a whole, after being pretty promising the last couple weeks, took a small step back, but this growth isn't linear. It's not like every game you're going to be better and better and better in areas you're looking to improve. But running game is a little lackluster. A Colt player I wanted to call out too was their first round pick from a year ago, Latu, the edge defender. Man, watching him again, I really liked him coming out of UCLA. I think he's going to be a star, and so I like to call out the opponents, some of the lesser known guys. I mentioned the receivers as well. Man, I loved how dominant the Steelers front was, but especially the big name guys. Cam and Watt were both phenomenal. Let's just appreciate what we have in these veteran, really, really good football players. And I thought Highsmith too was maybe the best defensive player in this game. And remember, he got a pretty decent ankle injury. Like when we start talking practice reports, I bet Highsmith does not do much practicing this week and may even will be questionable for next week because from what I understand, that ankle injury was pretty significant. He taped it up and went and was really, really good. I often talk about EPA and There's a site out there that tracks all the defensive players' EPA. And going into Monday Night Football, the 2 highest graded EPA defenders were in the whole league were Watt at 1, and then Highsmith at 2, and then Jack Sawyer at 6. Now, he had an interception, so a splash play does go a long way. And Latu, who I mentioned before, he was number 10. So handful of players in this game on the defensive side of the ball really made a lot of impact, 3 of which were Steelers. And I'm shocked Cam Hayward isn't. I mean, he's probably can't be far off because he was exceptional. A couple other little nuggets I dug up. Porter, I complained a little bit about his penalties, and I think that's warranted. But he was targeted 10 times. They weren't afraid to go after him. He gave up 63 yards, was flagged twice. He did force a few incompletions, though, and he got that freebie kind of interception on an overthrow. So, that wasn't the greatest play in the world. But Porter's going to have to be great. The other corners, especially if Ramsey's going to stay at safety, also something we'll talk about as the week goes on. Porter's going to have to be your foundational player. And I bet people aren't going to shy away from him. I mean, he's not Dion. He's not Revis. And he's got to cut the penalties down. That's for sure. Just a little note, just because they're younger players. I wrote this down yesterday that I really think Peyton Wilson and Benton, both of whom had some rocky moments early in the year, particularly Benton early on. I think they're in really good places in their overall development right now. And I'd like to see more of Wilson as an every down guy. I think Benton's in a real good spot and being used a little more properly now than he was early in the season. And they seem to really want to rotate their linebackers. Maybe that Harrison 4-3 package that we talked about is just a one-off. I kind of bet it is. I don't know if that's a new wrinkle here to stay. But we did see a lot of Holcomb before his injury. As I mentioned earlier, I think I just want to, if it was up to me, most of the time I would just say, Wilson and Queen, you're our every down guys. You can handle it. Let's go from here. And it's always a weird thing to comment on, but should Wilson be having the green dot dude? I don't know. But I think that's something that could be in the cards as well. Who knows? So a lot of good out of this game, as you can imagine, especially the defense. But I don't want to just shy away from the offense was not super great in this game, but huge win. We'll start talking Chargers here in a couple days, and we got trade deadline looming. So over and out.